wannabes, the so-called real Jews, they would say. We're the true ones taking it back, and they would say outsiders have lied to them, and that actually a lot of outsiders know the truth, especially the elite. They'll think that they know this reality. And last thing I'll say about it,
world. By the time you get to the 13th, 14th, 15th century in particular, that's when you begin to see the Portuguese showing up. Here is a depiction of the Jews of Malabar that were described by Benjamin of Tudela. We spoke in the first class as Black Jews, and in fact, here they do look more dark-skinned in this particular representation. And Jews are similarly diverse within the continent. My goal for tonight is to try and give you a very broad overview, focus in specifically on the Jews of Ethiopia, about whom we know the most, and then we're going to come back to North America and talk about the populations of Jews from Africa in America. So that's the plan for tonight. But here, have a look at the satellite photograph of Africa. We've got Jews in Africa from the ancient period. Ahead of the biblical period, we have Jews in Elephantine. We'll spend a little bit of time looking at that location. We've got Jews in Alexandria, Egypt, a very important site and location of Jews in antiquity. Qairan, Carthage, Jews in Ethiopia. By the way, I'm putting these up kind of like in chronological order of when we believe these communities were first established. Lots of Jews in Algeria and in Morocco. And we have several West African regions that support Jewish populations. Much of the background historical information in these is largely lost and very difficult to filter out. Representation of the communication between God and the Jewish people. That's how it's understood in the rabbinic tradition. And this passage here, the figure representing the Jewish people says, Shechora ani v'na'ava, which is translated, I am black, but comely, or but beautiful. That vav, na'ava, and comely, or but comely, could be translated as an and or a but the context here implies that it is a but, meaning I am different, I am black, but nevertheless I am beautiful. And most importantly, this is a metaphor referring to the entire Jewish people. So it's hard to be anymore. It does not appear that he actually saw this himself, but nevertheless, this is what he reports. I'll read in Hebrew and then I'll translate. So speaking about that region, he says, "Uveinehem b'chol elah hamakomos k'mo mea Yehudim b'chol hamidos." In those areas, there are about 100 Jews living there. V'chol anshe haaretz shechorim, and everybody who lives there is black. Shechorim is the word he uses. V'Yehudim k'mokein, and the Jews too. V'hein Yehudim tovim bali mitzvos u'beinehem Toras Moshe u'neviim, and they're very good Jews, and they perform commandments, and they have the Torah of Moses and the prophets, v'davar muat mitalmud v'halacha, and they also have something of the Talmud and harmful. And I'd like to look at the issue of Jews of color, the history, the long and really important history of multiple communities of Jews of color. Today, we're going to start with the dominant society, actually, and we're going to look at the fact that Ashkenazic Jews have a color, and it happens to be in our society a fairly valuable color. It's white eligible, at least it has been since about the 1940s, and hopefully we'll explore exactly what that means over the course of this lecture. But it is by no means the only color, and it is probably not the original color. As one of my colleagues at the university